Carlos Alcaraz's success is actually due to an exact science in his technique. We will take a look at his forehand, his backhand, and his serve. And I'm going to show you how the key fundamental moves are the real contributing factors to his success on the court. And every good tennis player must do the same. Success on the tennis court is not due to natural ability or talent. For even people with zero athletic ability, if they swing in a certain way, can still win, and they do. By accepting the statement that pro tennis is an exact science, then like causes must produce like effects, and Alcaraz is no exception. In the first section, we're going to be covering the forehand. There are a few key fundamental moves. The first one is his delay of the racket in the unit turn. This phase of the preparation allows Alcaraz to keep the feet free in order to run towards the ball. Notice that the racket does not get behind the body before the ball bounces. And this is a key factor among all pro forehands. The racket head must remain in front of the hand. And this is why players also tend to invert the racket on the ATP. Notice how the racket head stays in front of the hand, and it is also hooded. We can refer to this as the double lag, where the racket head lags in front of the hand to allow the body to make a full coil before it goes behind the body as a natural consequence of using the bigger muscles to pull forward with the shot, rather than sending the arm and racket on a lone mission. Another key component of the pro forehand is the non-hitting hand, helping the shoulders get past the hips. Notice how the hand will stay on the racket's throat until the ball bounces, helping both shoulders coil and getting the full range of motion. Now, some players do not hold the non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket, but it will still be hovering very close by. And you can definitely do this in your own game. So don't let go too early. If it's good enough for Alcaraz, it's probably good enough for you as well. Also notice how he plays with the ceiling above his head. You will see pro players staying grounded, especially when they are playing on the baseline and on the rise. Even when they are on the run and their feet appear to come off the ground, their head remains almost at the same level. We could refer to this as keeping the body quiet. There are other components that make his forehand a sound shot, and if you would like to learn them, you can click the link down below and learn with my free online course. Now, let's take a look at Alcaraz's backhand. Just like the forehand side, we have a delay in the setup. In the unit turn preparation, the racket remains in front of the body and the shoulders turn to about 45 degrees. The racket does not get behind the body at all. We see it also remain on the outside as he pulls it across his waist. This is very similar to the setup we see used by Novak Djokovic. If like causes produce like effects, we must accept that it is not a coincidence that two players who have in the modern game had great success take the racket back the exact same way on the backhand. And if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you as well. When both Alcaraz and Djokovic turn for the backhand, notice how they do not wrap behind their back pocket, and they keep the racket set on the outside of the body. Now, the other thing to note is the racket drop. This is another key component on every professional two-handed backhand, where the hands slot back and fall under the ball, allowing the racket to get a bigger range of motion when it pulls forward. And if players do not get this position, they will struggle to generate power and spin. Of course, these are just a few things that Alcaraz does a really good job of, and if you would like to learn more about the science of pro tennis, then you can click the link down below and learn with the free online course. Now lastly, let's take a look at the serve and touch on a few things that he does really well that you can do too. Notice how in the trophy position, he gets his shoulder over his shoulder. Now the elbow is up, but the knees must go down and back, the spine must remain straight, and the player needs to make sure that they do have the back shoulder lower than the front shoulder. And this doesn't mean to let your elbow dip down. The elbow is up, and it would be perpendicular to the spine if the player was not bending their knees. But as the knees go down and back in order to drive the legs, it must be below the front shoulder. And this is the truth, regardless of appearances. The player is not just dropping the elbow by itself. The body must come along for the ride. And just like every other good pro serve, the first move is a leg drive, and that's where the power starts. Also notice how the non-hitting arm, even after the ball leaves the hands, continues to flow upwards and remains in this upright trophy position until it's time to go. Many players make the mistake of not starting the swing with the legs, and they drop the non-hitting arm way too early, causing them to collapse on the serve. If you like what you learned here, I would love for you to learn the full system of how the science of pro tennis actually works, and you can do it for free by clicking the link down below. Thanks for tuning in, and use what you've learned to modernize your game. Ciao.